Hello and welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to another episode of Gameplay, the eSports show that keeps you in the know of all things high school and university eSports. Today, I'm going to have, once again, a very special guest lined up for you towards the end of my show. But before we get into any of that, let's catch up with some recent events within the eSports space. Let's jump right in. Okay, so for this week, let's start off with a bit of a throwback. A few years ago, we popped down to Cting Primary School to have a very special Christmas with them. We had a FIFA activation where the kids got to play some FIFA, have some fun, and create some memories. Let's take a look. Still an event that holds a special place in my heart, showing that everyone should be able to get involved within the high school space. But moving further from that, speaking on high school, if you're still a bit confused or a bit unaware of what ASL or AUL entails, well, here's head organizer of these events to tell you just exactly what ASL and AUL are all about, as well as show you what the formats are. Have a watch.
I'm Adam Thomas James, ACGL's Esports Education Specialist. And while the schools are on a bit of a holiday, I'm going to chat to you about the growth of esports in South Africa and the growth we've seen in our schools. Esports has grown exponentially in South Africa over the last 4 years. In 2021, when we started ASL, we had about 4 to 5 different schools, which made up of about 80 students, spread into different teams playing about 3 different types of games. In 2024, we have over 160 schools, which make up 1,600 students, plus that are playing weekly matches over 10 different games. Besides the stats, teachers are feeling it socially. We have so many requests on a weekly basis for schools that want to become involved. How do they get off the ground? If it's not through ASL, how do we get them esports ready so that they can get their students equipped? Honestly, I'd be surprised if there hasn't been a school that's at least heard of it in the classroom at this point. Esports has many benefits to our students and our children. At a primary school level, it promotes an interest in IT, and for many students across South Africa, this might be their first experience with IT or coding in a fun and beneficial way. We hope that develops an interest, a hobby, or even a passion to push that into different levels of study. If not, it just opens a door for them to be able to walk through. One of my favorite aspects is that we have students playing from Cape Town to Johannesburg to Gqeberha, anywhere across South Africa. We have people interacting that wouldn't usually do so, even across the age group from grade 8 to grade 10. It is really broad, and I think it's breaking down a lot of barriers. We've seen a lot of girls' teams perform very well, whereas esports has been seen as a more masculine sport in the past. Stereotypes are being broken, and esports in schools is the way to go about that. How does the main gaming league work? Well, the competitive season for schools starts in term 1, where schools are seeded into different groups. From there, we take those results and seed them into different divisions in term 2. There they play against people their skill level, and from there, we take the winners from the Premier Division over to our finals, which is AGC, which is what we're coming up to next. Normally that takes place at the end or towards the end of the second term, going into the third term or in the holidays. After that tournament is done and dusted and we have our winners for the year, we go into off-season, where we try out new games, new game modes, and we get a feel about what we're going to do for the next year. Because the games don't always stay static. We do move them in or out depending on popularity and depending on how competitive they are. That doesn't mean if you don't join in term 1 that you can't play for the year. You can join at any point. Your seeding just might be lower than expected if you didn't start at the beginning, but it's a good chance to practice and become aware of how the systems work. Signing up to ASL is extremely easy. All you need is a teacher associated with the school who can take responsibility for the students. There is no monetary requirement to signing up, and it is all done through our ASL website. What game should you play if you want to get into esports? Honestly, there are so many different titles on ASL. We have 10 competitive titles specifically for that league. If we don't have the title, other leagues have it, or there are tournaments elsewhere. So honestly, take your passion. If you want to specifically focus on ASL, our best titles right now are Fortnite, Rocket League, EAFC 24, which is the old FIFA. But the cool thing is that you can just take your passion for it. There is a space for every game, as long as it's competitive. After you finish school and you finish with ASL, what's next? You could either join AUL if you join a university and be part of the university league, or you can join a club, an org, or play on the public games. This doesn't have to be the end of your esports career. Good luck and keep on gaming.
And there you have it. There's the format and all you need to know about ASL and AUL. But moving forward from that, now it is time for our gaming opportunities in your area. And I'm going back to the same point. AGC is here and it is only this month. So submissions need to come in, otherwise you will miss out. It is going to be a competition held across 3 divisions. There's going to be ASL, AUL, as well as public esports, with 3 titles on the line, that being EAFC 24, Fortnite, and Rocket League, with 100,000 Rand on the line across the under 18 and open division. What are you waiting for? Now is your chance. Get involved, get signed up, and get ready to become a champion. But moving forward from that, the Shift Gaming Experience is back in town. This past 2 weekends, we had a pop-up activation at both Rosebank Mall and the Glen Mall. And let me tell you, it was a vibe. Pro players coming through to qualify for the Shift EAFC 24 Grand Final in Cape Town, which boasts a prize pool of 35,000 Rand. We also had local influencers come through, have some fun, create some memories. But alongside that, there were also spot prizes flying to multiple people competing in the various challenges available. But the fun has just begun. This weekend, Shift Gaming Experience hits the next mall, which will be Clearwater Mall. So don't miss out, as this is going to be yet another opportunity for you to get involved in the tournament. Pop in, sign up, and compete in EAFC 24, Street Fighter 6, and more, while also taking on challenges where you can walk away with some really cool spot prizes. What are you waiting for? Don't miss out on the next one, which will be on the weekend of the 11th to the 14th. So do not miss out on the next pop-up. All right, it's about that time to take a breather, take a short break, plug in those controllers. But right after my break, I have a very special guest lined up. So trust me, you do not want to miss out on this one. See you soon. Welcome back, folks. We're back with Game Chat, and now it's that time to introduce my special guest. Today, I am here with Shoutcaster, Sean Snare. Oh my goodness. Rechamfo. That's the name. How are you doing today, good sir?
I'm doing good. I'm glad to be here. It's been a while since I've been done an interview locally, so feels like coming home. It always feels very good to be here.
We love to see that. Welcome home. But just for a short introduction to maybe you viewers who don't know who he is, well, Mzansi's own golden boy when it comes to being on the mic in esports. Snare was a semi-pro Dota player that moved to Dota in 2013. Since his retirement from professional gaming in 2016, he has become a powerhouse in the casting and hosting scene, shoutcasting and hosting some of the biggest esports events in the world, such as the International, the Bali Major, the Riyadh Masters, and more. What a resume and what a journey.
Damn, that sounds like a cool guy. I want to meet that dude. That doesn't sound like me.
You know, it's crazy to think about it, especially when you look back on your journey about all the stuff that you've done. But, you know, speaking on that journey, what actually got you into casting and how long has it been for you?
Oof. I can actually tell you the exact day I got into casting. There's one day that got me into it professionally and one day where I'm like, I can do this as a hobby, right? The first time around, this was 2013. There was a tournament I was playing in, and I was part of this organization called EAE. And there were a couple of teams in the organization, and we were playing, you know, just trying to get through tournaments and stuff. And then one of our bigger teams, right, they were better than us, and I was trying to learn what makes them so good.
Yeah.
So one day I asked them, like, hey guys, would you mind if I join one of your practice lobbies, right? Like, I won't do anything, I'm just gonna be there just to watch, right? They said, cool. The people that they were practicing against said, cool. So I'm there, I'm just watching. And I happened to be with another friend of mine, right? He happened to just join the slot with me. But we forgot to mute our mics in the game, but we're just talking to each other like on TeamSpeak at the time. So we're talking. And then when one of the other guys downloads the replay, obviously our voices are there. And he's like, that didn't sound bad, guys. Like,
that sounded pretty good.
Maybe do this a little bit more. So then we had the small thing that whenever they would practice, we'd just be there in the slot. It was good for all of us, right? We got to see better Dota, better gameplay, analyze the plan and the patterns, makes us better as a team. And then they got to be entertained afterwards when they're watching back the replay. But at the time, it was still just, whatever, we're doing this for fun, it's memes, no one's really taking it too seriously. Hadn't really had it in mind that it could be a viable career path. And then there was another day which did change that for me. I think this was late 2014, early 2015, but I want to say late 2014. So I went to a tournament for Mortal Kombat, right? At the time I was still playing, I used to play like a bunch of different games. So I went to this tournament, and this was still in the days where to enter a tournament, you had to pay entrance cash, right? So we'd all get there, you know, you pay a 50 ranta.
Yeah, just to get yourself in
exactly,
there, get in the vibe.
And then we divide the pot afterwards for the top 3 people. So cool. We're there, and I was with a couple of my friends who weren't Mortal Kombat players. One of them was a Street Fighter guy, another one was a Tekken guy, another dude was from Guilty Gear, another guy wasn't even like in fighting games, he was just around that weekend. I'm like, guys, come through with us. The tournament's at this bar, we'll go hang out for a bit. And then while we were there, I was just explaining what's happening, right? I was like, oh, okay, this is why this person is picking, let's say, Scorpion versus a Melina. Here's the entire tenor of the competition. Here's what it looks like. But I'm just talking, just chilling as usual. The owner of not the bar, but like the segment of the bar that we're sitting, and the guy that was like helping to run the competition, he literally just emerged out of the shadows with a mic in his hand. And he's
Give
like,
it to him.
bruh, he gives me this mic. I'm like, what do you want me to do with this? He's like, the thing you were just doing with the homies, right? Just do that on the mic. That's it, right? Don't change anything about it. Talk as if you're talking to the homies. And in exchange, what I'll do is every time I run a tournament, you can enter for free, right? And I was like, sweet, this is a good deal. I wasn't winning the tournaments at the time, so I was losing a lot of money. So I was like, this makes a lot of sense. Let's do this. And from there, just kept going. He'd have like other different events. And the date fully got real. One day he called me for the launch of Pokken Go, this other Nintendo game. He calls me up and he's like, listen, man, this game is launching. They wanted me to have like a little tournament. I don't know any people that do Pokken. Do you want to just come through, hang out? Let's see how it goes. Obviously, since you're not competing in that day, let's arrange how much I can pay you. And I was like, oh yeah, I can get paid. Hold on. This is nice.
And that's crazy to think about it, that something that even you just said now, you wouldn't think of that as a viable opportunity, that happening for you. That's a crazy thought to think about, right?
Yeah.
That this is something that I didn't think would happen, but it happened. And that's something I think that's very interesting to talk about. What is the importance of sharing this type of knowledge, especially with high school esports and university esports being on the rise, and letting kids and students who are striving to find different career paths in the space about these opportunities that are now arising that weren't there previously, like shoutcasting?
I would say that like the advantage a lot of them have now, they have two advantages. The fact that, like you say, more of these opportunities are available. That used to be the case back in the day when I was on the come up. But also now it's, for me at the time, right? Even if I had started on day one and said, hey, this is what I want to do. This is the express purpose of my life. I want to be a shortcaster. I want to be a host. I want to be involved in gaming. I would not have been able to have that conversation with my family, my teachers, my friends, and say, hey guys, this is serious. I would have been laughed out of the room at the time. But now kids can actually see that, no, there is a viable way into this. So you're less discouraged by the forces around you. It's less of a risk for you to take like a year or two and say, I'm gonna go full time with this, see what happens. I also think that the big advantage that kids have relative to the rest of us, because I was already like later on in university, I was in my early 20s when this was happening. But if you're a kid now, if you're in high school, there's no real downside for you just trying it out, right?
Yeah.
Say, hey, let me just cast some random tournament on YouTube. Hey, let me just hop on Twitch, stream a little bit, see if I can gain any traction. You're still in school, you're still going to be going into university, you're still under the purview of like a community around you, just trying to keep you afloat. So I would say right now, if I was a kid, I kind of wish I was 14, 15 now with what I know now as well, right? Being like, oh, okay, and have that experience. I'm not afraid of the failure, I can just do this thing and it could work out. So I would say as a kid now, honestly, a lesson that it took me way too many years to learn about trying a new venture, especially something that's not considered a conventional career path, is that the only good day to start is today, right? The better day is yesterday, but yesterday's come and gone. Start today, basically. And as a young person, there's so much space and so much opportunity that people want to give you that voice. They want to see like that new perspective on a game that they're already playing. They want to see what's the new zeitgeist going to look like. Everybody's looking for the next big thing. And usually, especially in gaming, the next big thing always comes from the young kids who are on the come up, not the old heads like me who've already done it.
And one thing to note is shoutcasting is different from pro play. You don't have to be the best at the game to know the game, to speak on it. Can that also be another advantage for kids coming into it?
Oh, absolutely. I think as well, the thing with shoutcasting, like you say, you don't have to be the best to do it. And usually in my experience, there's limited time on earth, right? The more time I spend getting good at shoutcasting, I don't have as much time to dedicate to getting as good in the game as possible. So you do kind of have to choose between being a pro player or somebody involved in the shoutcasting, hosting, in the talent space overall. It's like, it is a thing, but when you're a young kid, one thing that does help a lot, if you're already playing the game, you are already good, people are more likely to give your opinion weight if they know that's not just coming from a place of, I like the game. It's no, this is an involved, considered, and very, very, very well-researched opinion. I can go into the game now and show you why I think the way I do. And I think when you're as a kid, when you're younger, you also just have more time to be playing these games, Probably don't have, even if you do have a job, right, it's unlikely it's taking up all of your time. If you're in school, the difference between being like in high school, no matter what high school you're going to, compared to the workload in university,
it's a lot different.
lot different, right? So the younger you are, the easier it is to set up that foundation, right? To be able to demonstrate, hey guys, I have the skills to back up what I'm saying, but also I've curated the ability to communicate what I'm saying, because very often you'll have like, I'm sure we've all seen it, you're watching some big tournament, whether it be the international, whether it be worlds, whether it be a CS major, and there's an ex-pro player who you can tell that they know what they're talking about, but they haven't yet figured out how to communicate that in an engaging or interesting way. And the broadcast, even though substantively is good, it's boring to watch, right? But kids have the advantage in that, like, the earlier you start, by the time you get good at both the shoutcasting element and the gaming element of things, right? You've gone through the awful parts of things, You're not going to sound wooden on the camera. You're not going to sound like you're still trying to figure out how to communicate, how to be comfortable just having your face on camera. So you get that out of the way. And also, the younger you start, you're too young to know to be scared, So you can just do your thing freely, I think.
For sure. And speaking on that, with all the expertise that you've learned, all of this knowledge, you found yourself on the international stage casting for the international, quite literally the biggest esports event for Dota out there.
Actually, the biggest, until this year, in terms of prize pool, the international and Riyadh were the biggest of all esports ever. Yeah.
Exactly. And that's something to note, right? And you yourself, I don't think you would have ever thought that that would be a possibility, but it is. It's a reality for you. What did it take for you to get to that point? And what can you tell people that are looking on to say, maybe I'm disadvantaged here or this or that? What do you have to say after you've made it to that stage?
I will say there's a bit of honesty I must give everybody, right? In that, like, the better position you are in life in general, right? Obviously, things are easier, but in my come up, for example, there was a long time I didn't have internet. A long period of time where like my computer wasn't good enough to even get online, whether I wanted to stream or just record content. And obviously living in South Africa, relative to, let's say if I was born in America or born in Europe, born in Australia, a lot of the international esports community has a lot of traction in those areas of the world, right? Or how even like a South America or a Southeast Asia. We are in South Africa kind of an island in the global landscape of esports, right? And obviously over the last 10 years, the amount of work that's been done to change that is astronomical. Y'all will not believe how different the esports scene is now with our global prominence than it was back then. Back then, there were no famous FIFA people, there were no Street Fighter players, no Tekken people, no Dota players, no CS, no nothing. Right?
Yeah.
South Africa was just the Bundus, basically. Right?
It literally, and there's a lot of work that has been done, and you've been a part of that renaissance, right?
Yeah. I was there, you know, seeing these changes, and in some senses driving them. Some of them worked out, some of them didn't. But the thing I realized, relative to my peers elsewhere, right, is that the amount of work it takes from South Africa is at least 10 times harder than anywhere else, right? But the main thing is the degree of mental fortitude you need, right? Because there were many years where things were just not popping, was not working out for me. The smart thing would have been to just leave, right? A lot of the people I came up with, they did the smart thing. They left. They're now working more official jobs, you know, they're in corporate, and they're having themselves a good time, right? They have solidified their life. But to make it internationally from South Africa is going to require a certain degree of risk. You're going to have to take the chance and say, I'm going to give up a year or two where I could be interning for some company, right?
Yeah.
And really try do this full time, because in my experience, anything less than full time in South Africa is insufficient. And even full time is insufficient, right?
Definitely,
you have to be, the point in the year that I think really made or break me, I think 2020, 2021, right? Around that time was when I was, I think, working the hardest, right? And there was a point where I was clocking on average 15-hour days, like for a couple of weeks in a row. It was hell on earth, right, to get through, but it was a necessary thing to do in a way that it wouldn't have been necessary if I was American, if I was European, if I was Australian or whatever. So to be honest, that's, I think, the first thing, like besides passion, besides your skill at the game, besides your desire to do this, right? You have to look into yourself and say, are you willing to put in more work than anyone around you, right?
Yeah.
You're going to be working harder than the lawyers around you to try and make it in this space, right? Afterwards, once you've made it, I'll be honest, things become a lot easier because now the name recognition is out there. People, you don't have to advertise yourself as much, right? People come to you now.
It's a lot
They're
easier.
Like, yeah, what's up? We need you here.
But that's something to note, actually, as you said, you work a lot harder than people around you. And that's something people may not realize, right? Is esports is not just the face value, you sit in front of the game, play games, or shoutcasting is just get on a mic, you start talking. There's a lot more work that goes into it. And as you said, even, it's not easy just doing it part-time.
Yeah.
There's a lot more that has to go into it. And what really kept you going through all of that? What is the mental sort of idea in your head that kept you pushing through all of this?
Initially, arrogance, right? I'd just be watching a show and be like, no way, dude. There's no way those people are better than me. I can figure out a way to get myself into those spaces and demonstrate my talent. But arrogance only gets you so far, right? Then the gigs aren't coming in. Then it's like, okay, sunken cost fallacy. I've just put in so much effort, so much work that I have to succeed, whether I like it or not. Eventually, that falls away as well. And the thing that's left, and honestly, the thing that's kept me going several times in my career, because I wanted to quit maybe 8 or 9 times over the last several years. But it was the people around me who understood what this meant to me, right? And they were like, dude, you have to do this. Like, not we want you to do this, want you to succeed, right? This clearly means something to you, more so than just a success, right? It's a combination of years of effort. It's, reward is the wrong word, but it's acknowledgement, right? From the world itself, that the thing you were doing, you were not laboring in vain, you were actually making that happen.
Yeah.
And I think for me, that was the most important thing. Finding people in my life, right? Making them understand how much this meant to me. And then when things get tough, they're the ones that will come back to you and say, hey, listen, we know you're struggling right now. We know you're going through it, but
keep pushing.
Keep
this
pushing.
is what you're working towards.
A good story of this would be in 2021. I just left my previous job. Things weren't necessarily working out just yet in that space, right? Or rather, it was a rough couple of months at that point in time.
Yeah.
And I remember once I needed to borrow money for food and electricity, right? And I was like, guys, I don't know if I can do this no more, right? This is ridiculous, right? How can a homie be out here asking to buy tomatoes? Meantime, you're having dreams of going internationally. That doesn't work out, right? I was thinking of like putting my CV back out there in the workforce. Let's get back into the proper grind of things. And then my homies banded together, right? Corralled together, got me some money, not just for food, but to pay some rent as well for the month. And they were like, dog, okay, we've taken care of this for a while. Now you just do the thing that we know you're meant to do. Get back on the mic, do that. And then, so I think being able to find that support system was, in my opinion, the most important thing, because after I found that support system, it made me realize that I'm not succeeding for me, right? I'm happy when I succeed. It means a lot to me when I succeed. But then you remember the countless hours you couldn't go to someone's birthday. There was a wedding you missed out on. There was time you couldn't be hanging out with your family.
Yeah.
Maybe a date you're supposed to be in, your partner, you don't see them as much because you're dedicating all this time to this. And then it made me realize that me succeeding in this is a requirement, because I can't take all of their effort, all of their sacrifice, all that they've given to the cause. That can't have been in vain, right?
Yeah.
So for all of us, I'm fulfilling this dream, but it's not my dream. It's a dream I share with everybody. So that was the last, I think, final piece to make me really, really get into it, is that my success isn't my own success, right? And especially as a Black South African, right? If you look in the international gaming scene, how many Black Africans are there, right? How many Black people, firstly? And of those Black people, how many of them are African, right? That number is incredibly low. In Dota, the number is literally 1. It's me, right?
Yep.
So it's like, well, if
You
I don't
can
make
count
it
it on your fingers.
Exactly, right? If I don't make it, who's to say when the next opportunity is going to come for someone else like me to make it, someone else who gets the struggle? So that's why I think it's like a thing to think about as well, that like your success is not just for you, not just for your family, but it paves the way for somebody else who has a similar story to you to also attain that degree of success.
Most definitely. Beautiful story. And just to close things off, I just want to ask, what is one piece of advice or anything that you have to say for many students that may be looking to what you're doing, are inspired by your work and want to work towards getting to where you are, but also maybe want to avoid certain maybe bad decisions or burning themselves out? What is something that you can just share with them?
One of the best pieces of advice, get contracts. When you get hired, insist on a contract. On the real though, I think the biggest mistake I've always made throughout my career, right? And there's a mistake I'm still kind of making now at certain junctures, but it's a story for another day. Never say no, right? If somebody gives you an offer to do something, even if you don't believe that this is the best role for you, you don't necessarily think it's something you want to be doing that much, when you're on the come up, the most important thing is to get yourself out there, right? Good, bad or not, right? You can get good in front of camera, right? But you can't do anything if nobody, you can also be the best person that no one's ever heard of, right? Who would you rather be? Basically, that's a question you have to ask yourself.
Yeah.
And you never want to be the person that people are like, oh yeah, Kante, what happened to that guy? Wasn't he, we haven't seen him in a while, wonder what he's up to. Never let that happen. Always be saying yes to whatever. It might seem like it's not in your wheelhouse, might seem like a strange thing.
Yeah.
But then also, as time goes on, you might discover different aptitudes that you didn't know about. I mean, I'm here because it turns out I have an aptitude for talking about games. That was never in the plan. I just happened to say yes on one particular day, and that changed my life forever, right?
Yeah.
So my number one piece of advice, say yes, and never think of yourself as too big for an opportunity.
Yeah.
No matter how big you actually become, if somebody's like, here's a mic, can you come cast our soccer tournament by the tuck shop? Sharp. When do you need me? What time do you need me there? Should I wear anything? What's up?
Yeah. And one more thing, especially for many Black Africans who might be looking up to you. I mean, as you said, you're the only Black African that's been casting for Dota, the international. What do you want to say to any of those that may be watching right now?
That's a tough one because there's a lot to say. But I think the biggest thing for me, for the young Black people that are out there, right, and who, firstly, you're not aware as a young Black person, right, just how hard it's going to be being a young Black person, being a representative of a lot of other Black people. It's going to test you. Like, it's going to test your mind, it's going to test your spirit. You're going to, a lot of times, want to lash out, say dumb things. I would say, again, remember that you're not just doing this for you, right? If you fail, who's to say when the next Black person comes up behind you, right? It is a big responsibility to take on, so you have to go into it with that in mind. But I think the other big thing to remember, and it also took me too long to realize this, is you bring a unique voice. Nah? There is nobody on planet Earth. Firstly, there's nobody like South Africans, right? If I can literally spot a South African in the random middle of the street, right?
Yep.
Anywhere on planet Earth, you'll just be like, that person, I see where they're from, right? I actually had a braai with the guy in Riyadh. It was good. He literally just found me and he's like, South Africa, ne? Yeah, bro. It's a big jobs. It was a good time. But we are a unique people, and being Black people, just in gaming, right? If you're a Black person in gaming, you know that you're not having the same experience as, let's say, one of your white friends that might be in gaming, one of your Indian friends that might be in gaming. But what that does also mean is that the perspective you bring is one that is not replicable anywhere else on Earth.
Yeah.
And if you can find a way for people to hear you, guarantee they're going to latch onto you. You might even be surprised by just how much currency you actually carry, just how much of a difference you make just by simply existing. But when you realize how much of a difference you can make, it can also give you much more motivation to be like, guys, the thing I'm saying is actually important, and that's a big thing. Never forget that your voice legitimately does matter, and it does matter that you share it with the world.
There's nothing more needs to be said. Honestly, man, it's been a beautiful chat. But, ladies and gentlemen, that has been Gameplay. Thank you so much for joining us once again for this episode. Make sure you catch us next week, same time, same place. This has been Snare. If you do want to catch up with him, check him out on socials at Snare. But I have been Skara. This has been Gameplay, and we'll see you in the next one. Take care. GG's, gamers.